Comics Corner, presented by the Multiverse Musings podcast network. As always, I'm your host Adam, and with me, as always, is my co-host Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
Oh, the Frost King is frightful, but we say an oath that is rightful, and to fight all that anger and snow, let it glow, let it glow, let it glow. What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast.
That was a good one. That was part Christmas song, part Green Lantern oath, and then just for fun, you blinded the audience. It's all good.
That's right. If you like cheesy dad humor, you've come to the right place.
Yeah. We've got dad jokes. Are there uncle jokes? Because I could provide those. Are they classified as?
I'll let you borrow a few of my dad jokes. How about that?
Okay, yeah. Awesome. But until I get a chance to use some of those jokes, as we often start on the show, what have you been reading aside from this story, Donnie?
This week, I read Three Jokers in its entirety, and it was absolutely amazing. 1989 was actually the first trade paperback I ever read. I bought it at a Comic-Con, and I ran up. I was actually in an auditorium, and I ran up to the top of the auditorium where I wouldn't be bothered, and I read the whole thing, and that was called Death in the Family. Well, this connects to Three Jokers, and so I had a really nostalgic morning just kind of plowing through Three Jokers because it was such an amazing story.
Yeah, Stephen and I covered it in 3 parts on this the very show. You can find those episodes on YouTube, as a matter of fact. Cheap plug there. But I love the book because, as you said, it connects to not only that, but also the Killing Joke as well. And the writing is great. There's this ridiculous assertion out there that Jeff Johns doesn't understand Batman, and some people think he's not a good writer. I think they're off base there.
I think this is one of the most essential Batman stories you're ever going to read.
Yeah. So I think those opinions are off base, but those opinions are also colored by other things that are kind of asinine in and of themselves. However, Jeff Johns has written I would call it an instant classic, and the artwork by Jason Fabok is spectacular. Speaking of 1989, there are a lot of Batman 89 cues in that book, and that makes me happy because Michael Keaton, to me,
that's your Batman. Yeah,
he's the best Batman to me. So anytime you draw Batman with that iconography, you're already making a character I love even better. So there you go. But yeah, I agree with your assessment. I've been reading, and we can do this now because we've officially started covering Marvel on the show, so I can say this without it being sacrilege. Well, it might still be sacrilege to some, but I don't care. I read the Silver Surfer, the first 2 issues of Silver Surfer Black, because I'm diving into the King in Black storyline, and that's one of the preludes. So I started reading that. I'm not in terms of reading, I'm not a connoisseur of Silver Surfer per se. So this is really, it's not my only exposure to him, but it's some of my most significant so far. And the book does a good job of at least through 2 issues, giving you an understanding of who and what the Silver Surfer is, but also telling a present-day modern story without getting bogged down by, origin, in a sense. Like, it gives you the origin, it gives you his backstory without having it dominate the story. And it really makes the villain, who is going to be the main driving force of this crossover in the Marvel Universe, seem very, very formidable.
So
It's
enough to get you up to speed, but not so much that it feels like it's a retread.
well, it gets you up to speed on Silver Surfer, and it gives you, if you haven't read Venom and you don't know who the King in Black is, it'll give you enough sprinkles of both, so that you kind of getting your footing. So if you plan on reading that story, there is a reading order. If you type in King in Black reading order, one of the first ones that comes up will give you a nice handy list of what you need to read to be in the know for this story.
Good. So yeah.
So I've started it and I'm enjoying it, and I look forward to continuing it.
Likewise, I definitely want to finish that story. I have read some of it, but I definitely want to read it in its entirety. So, by the way, Silver Surfer, one of my favorite crossovers between DC and Marvel, of course, was the Silver Surfer Green Lantern crossover. And we will talk about that one day on the Emerald Echo podcast, available on iTunes and Podbean.
There you go. Well done. Plug number 2, just like that. All right, so there's what we've been reading. Is there any news that you want to touch on, Donnie, before we dive into the final 3 issues of Endless Winter?
There you go. And you're 1 for 1, by the way.
That's right.
And I just want to point out one thing. As the Emerald enthusiast, I always like to call people's attention to Green Lantern products. Later on this year, Jessica Cruz will be getting her own young adult novel, and it is called Unearthed, a Jessica Cruz story by Lillian Rivera and Steph C. So we have a brief bio what it's going to be about. It's going to involve Ice and her parents. But this should be a very interesting story. It sounds like it's different than what we're used to with Jessica. So we'll definitely be covering, I will definitely give my thoughts on my Twitter page as well as the Emerald Echo podcast, available on iTunes and Podbean.
I think that'll be something that's worth covering down the line. So we'll definitely talk about it, possibly right on this very channel, perhaps, because it's a more present day story. Or we're on the podcast. What we've sort of doing on the podcast is going back in some sort of chronological fashion to look back at the older story, the classic stories, I should say. And when we do the Comics Corner, these episodes here, we'll be dealing with more modern, current stuff, as you can see if you've checked out this channel so far. So, with that being said, we'll keep on the lookout, and we will share our thoughts on that when it hits shelves and when we have it in our hands or on our digital platforms. I believe that's September.
September 2021. That's what the solicitation said.
Right. So we'll be definitely looking forward to that. But in the meantime, let's cover the final chapters of Endless Winter. So briefly, when we last left off, where were we?
When we last left off, we saw that the Endless Winter crossover, which at this point we have already reviewed 6 issues. The entire situation is that there's a character called the Frost King who has come up and assaulted the world and basically thrown the world into a perpetual blizzard. And to make things worse, there are these frost creatures that are just overwhelming the world, including the Justice League. So that's where we are, and we pick up this episode with Justice League Dark number 29. Mm-hmm. And so we see that the Justice League, and some other heroes as well, they're trying to combat the Frost King and all of these frost creatures whom they can destroy, but they kind of, waves of them regenerate. And we see that kind of all over the world this is happening, and the heroes are being overwhelmed. And so we see that the Flash and Wonder Woman and the rest of the Justice League Dark, they talk about the Frost King's first attack in the 10th century. Now, much like the other issues here, this is told in 2 different timelines. We see the modern day, and we also see 10th century Greenland. And we see that Hippolyta talks about the first time that she and her teammates at the time encountered the Frost King. So, what were your thoughts on like the first few pages of this, Adam?
I really, like I said, I've always been a fan of these flashback pages and moments, to the point where, you know, if DC wanted to put out a Justice League book that was set in this time period, because I'm assuming that at least a portion of this group, you know, stayed together if there were other threats beyond the Frost King. I mean, clearly, you know, as we got to the end of the story, we see what happens to Black Adam. So he probably, spoilers, wasn't a part of any team beyond this event in that era. But you know, like I like the story so much that if they had more with this particular group, I'd read it. And you know, I like that, you know, this issue with Diana and Barry, because remember they had went to Themyscira last we left, right. So we get a lot more of Hippolyta's perspective and feelings on the matter, and I like that. It also helps that when I read this issue, it was on the heels of watching Wonder Woman 84. You know, more of Hippolyta was like, all right, I'm in the mood, let's go. So perfectly timed, and again, you get the sense of, from these flashbacks, the weight of the failure, the perceived failure, has on Wonder Woman's mother, and the toll it's taken on her all these years. So yeah, I enjoyed. I always love the flashbacks. They add so much to the story. I mean, you know.
Well, and you know, we see that back in the 10th century, the Justice League Viking version, that they fought
the JLV.
Yeah, the JLV.
Yeah.
That they fought the Frost King, and the way they were able to come out somewhat victorious back then was with a sacrifice by Swamp Thing, and who is now trapped in the other place. It's kind of a forgotten realm of dark magic, and
like Stranger Things, the upside down.
Right. And so Hippolyta, you know, she kind of understands that, you know, to win this again in the present time, they're going to somehow need Swamp Thing back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the prevalence of Swamp Thing in this. I really like that he's getting a push, it seems, from DC. And again, this book had some serendipitous timing in that, you know, shortly before reading this book, I had finished the rebroadcast of Swamp Thing on the CW, because I didn't get to watch it on DC Universe, because, you know, in Canada they didn't bother bringing DC Universe here, because why the hell would they care about what Canadians want to watch? But
it's a great show, by the way.
It really was, and you know, there's rumors that it may get a second life on the CW or HBO Max, and I hope those are accurate, because I'd love to see it back, for sure. I mean, we're gonna see Swamp Thing in live action again when J.J. Abrams does his Justice League Dark show, so I'm not concerned in seeing Swamp Thing again, but it'd be kind of cool if it was the same iteration of Swamp Thing. But yeah, I really like like it just shows you how important he is as a character in the DC universe. One that is often overlooked, I might add. I think not enough people give the character or some of the runs that he's had in the comics enough praise. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Alan Moore. Certainly a lot of his opinions, at the very least. And I think the Watchmen book is somewhat overrated. But I much prefer his Swamp Thing run to Watchmen. I'll say that. So, I check out. I mean, just if I can for a second, praise some more Swamp Thing. I check out Alan Moore's run, and I'd also check out the Scott Snyder run. I think it was during the New 52. Some good stuff there. So, but yeah, I like the importance being placed on Swamp Thing, and the way they bring him back is,
right.
or who embodies Swamp Thing, because it's not Alec Holland, obviously.
No, not what we see is that Diana and Zatanna, they go to this other place and they get a piece of a root that Swamp Thing, or the kind of the spirit of Swamp Thing there gives them, and they take this root back to the Oblivion Bar where Hippolyta has summoned the Viking Prince, the ghost of the Viking Prince.
Right.
And yes, and we see the root engulf the ghost of the Viking Prince, making a huge Viking Swamp Thing, which was just a really cool image. I mean, if you're a comic book reader, it's the kind of thing that, regardless of whether this story is something that echoes throughout time or it's just a fun romp, that kind of visual is the kind of thing that you read comic books for. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, easily the pages with Viking Swamp Thing are probably the best of this issue for sure. And I actually like. I love an action figure, a Viking Swamp Thing, made by McFarlane Toys, preferably. I think that would be.
There was a New 52 DC Collectibles one that had a lot of accessories, including kind of the jutting wood from his head and a lot of different things you could put on the figure. It was really cool. So
yeah, and it was a great way to bring back the DC's Thor there for a little bit.
Yeah,
the Viking Prince. I'm still going to call him DC Thor because that's essentially what he.
Well, again, I haven't got to read a lot of Viking Prince over the years, so it was nice for me to familiarize myself with the character.
Is he actually a character from before? Like, was he actually in?
Oh, yeah, he's been around for a long time. I have read him in the past, but again, having read comic books for 40 years, sometimes I forget things that I read 20 or 30 years ago. But
yeah, this is my first exposure to him, so I didn't know that he was a thing before.
Yes.
And now he's a Swamp Thing, so.
Exactly.
And actually, as you were talking about the root and Swamp Thing and all that, I just got it in my head, and imagine a Marvel and DC crossover between Groot and Swamp Thing.
Yes.
It would be like Lethal Weapon, because the Swamp Thing would be the straight man, the serious dude, and then you'd have Groot being Groot. I just think I'd read the hell out of that crossover.
Well, and I think a lot of people would like to see, Swamp Thing and Man Thing have another crossover. Because if you remember,
from the first thing to the last, right?
Right. If you remember, if memory serves, there was some controversy at the time because they were created close to one another as to which one was actually created first. So I have to go back and read up on that. But I got
to be honest, I'm not very familiar with Man Thing, but I may look into that.
Man Thing's another interesting character. I will say there are obviously some similarities there. Man Thing has been the driving force behind many a geeky joke over the years because, of course, when you have the giant-sized issues from Marvel, there were several labeled giant-sized Man Things.
Yeah.
Even joked about on the Ultimate Spider-Man, I believe. He was like, yeah, look at my giant-sized Man Thing. Anyway, so we'll keep it PG and just say that's how Marvel labeled it. So anyway, yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, I would have. Not gonna lie, I'd probably have made that joke once or twice if I would have known. Right. But yeah, no, I may check it out though.
So by the way, I do want to say one correction from the first, not the first to the last. from the first Comics Corner that we did. I thought it was Ron Mars and Andy Lanning and some other writers who were writing this with them, but I think it was just Mars and Lanning actually who were the two main writers.
They're the Mega Powers tag team on this.
Right. Yeah. So when we put this episode up, we'll put all the names of all the creative people involved in this. We won't go into that right now, but it was Andy Lanning and Ron Mars. Again, Ron Mars being a favorite writer of mine. And so that was part 7. That was Justice League Dark number 29.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the flashback sequences and Hippolyta's sort of working through that sort of, like I said, the perceived failure in her life really powered the issue. And so I guess we could grade it if you want.
It wasn't the most action-packed issue. I'd have to say about. Were we grading on a scale of 10? Is that what we said last time?
It's 5 for the story, and then 5 for the art.
The art, I would have to say again, a 5.
Yeah.
As far as the story, closer to a 4.5 this time. It advanced the narrative, but it was a little light on action. It didn't always achieve that perfect balance, but it was great. It got us to Black Adam number 1, which is part 8. So, what was your impression of this?
I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 in the writing category, just because, like I said, it was a little light on action, but I did like the Hippolyta, the deep dive into Hippolyta's emotional feelings over all this.
Hippolyta is drawn very well in this, by the way.
Indeed. And again, I like that there's enough distinction between her and Wonder Woman, so they don't look like twins.
Right. Good point.
And that goes to the art, which I'm going to give a 5, because I've seen one too many artists draw, 2 different superheroes, but apart from their costume, they look identical. An example being Ed McGuinness drawing Batman and Superman. Aside from the spit curl and the costumes, Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent look identical. So it really highlights the detail of an artist and I think the scope and variety of an artist when they can draw characters with unique features.
Right.
Even if they are mother and daughter and they should have some similarities, they don't need to look like twins. That's my rating. So in total, it'd be a 9 out of 10 if I had to give it a total rating, but 4 and 5 respectively for story and art for me. Yeah. So Black Adam is next.
So Black Adam, and interesting, you just brought up the fact that you talk about Hippolyta kind of mourning the battle or regretting the battle, I guess I should say, from the 10th century, because not only did that version of Swamp Thing die, seemingly Edwald Olafsson, who is the Frost King, his family, his remaining family, perished in that battle too. Now, we learn more about that later on, but she kind of regrets how things went down, whereas Black Adam, he had no regrets about it at all. He was like, I did what I had to do, and you see that he is very self-assured, regardless of other people's opinions, regardless of other people's safety around him. This is definitely the Black Adam that I know, and so you see that contrast in the beginning between Black Adam was just like, we did what we needed to do, and Hippolyta was like, this is something I deeply regret.
Yeah, one thing is for sure. Well, 2 things. Black Adam is very, very confident.
Yes.
In himself. He's very matter of fact. Like, if there's a job to be done, I'm going to do it in the most straightforward, abrupt, matter-of-fact way. And as long as the end result is accomplished, whatever casualties occur as a result, that's just, those are the cards that were dealt. This is how we have to deal with it, right?
Right.
And so I just like he's very short. He's very snarky, but you can't help like the dude. Like there's certain jerks that you like, and he's one of those guys.
He's an interesting character, even when he is being an absolute jerk. He's still fun to read.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, give us some more details on the issue.
Well, we see in the present, Stag Industries. We see Black Adam is there in the Arctic ice, and we see at this point the Frost King's frozen family. And so they are not dead; they are frozen at this point.
They're in stasis.
And but we also see that the Kryptonian crystals that have been left behind by Superman are absorbed at this point when the Frost King appears, and he becomes more powerful than ever. And I finally figured out who he reminded me of. You know, there was a couple different characters, but if you remember Unicron from the 1986 Transformers movie, with the big horns and the kind of the mechanical beard type thing, that's kind of what he looked like. So
that's a good call. Yeah.
So the Frost King appears and he's ready to fight with Black Adam. And you talked about a sacrifice. I believe it was Multiplex who was making other versions of himself to the point to where he was depleted. And then he was defenseless against the Frost King, and he pleaded for help from Black Adam, and Black Adam was like, you did a good job, but now you got to go. You know,
I wouldn't want to be in Black Adam's employ. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So again, didn't show a lot of mercy there, but again, it was.
You know what
it was.
Say, right?
Yeah, it was a really interesting issue. So. Yeah, so
I think secretly Black Adam is the founder of Cobra Kai way back when. he chose
that would be an interesting crossover.
Oh yeah, Black Adam and John Kreese. Can you imagine those two? Oh God, Lord.
Oh man.
Oh good Lord, that would be. So I imagine a crossover where John Kreese starts a Cobra Kai dojo in Kandak, and you can imagine the grand opening of that dojo. It would be one hell of an energy. I'd read that crossover.
That would be, you know, if Black Adam just shared some power with John Kreese and made him a metahuman, that would be, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd read it. You can tell I've got Cobra Kai on the brain.
I was watching it this morning too. I'm not going to blame you.
Yeah. So. It's just. But again, even though I'll confess that Black Adam was a jerk to Multiplex, didn't really bother me because Multiplex is kind of a prick in and of himself, right? I mean,
it was Black Adam. He was fighting with some of the villains that we had previously talked about, like Icicle and Catman and Silver Banshee, who I like. But,
doesn't he make fun of them? Doesn't he call them like C-listers or something to that effect?
Yeah, somebody did like in issue number 1, but I can't remember who it was. So
yeah. No, it's weird because that's
I want to see. Is that a good shot? Because I can't see myself.
No, it's good. It's good.
That's the shot that reminded me of Unicron. That huge shot there. So
I definitely see the inferences. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's a really good call. No, I like I said, this one had a lot more action to it. What's interesting to me is the fact that the Fortress of Solitude and the crystals, the Kryptonian crystals, were actually making the situation worse for the Justice League because they're powering up their villain, which Black Adam will eventually point out in the finale to Superman.
Right, and that'll be, he takes issue with, Superman and the Justice League, and we see a little bit more of that later on, which, by the way, in the end, the very end of Black Adam, number 1, you see that well?
Yeah, well, I see the top of it.
Oh. Black Adam number 1, the Justice League shows up, so that's $3.99 from DC Comics. And that is part 8. The Justice League shows up to set up the final battle in Part 9, and that's the Justice League Endless Winter Special #2.
Yeah, the
So,
Justice League has had a couple of big entrances, big like last minute, last page entrances in this story, and again, anytime you get those splash pages or stuff like that, it really accentuates the art. And I gotta say that you mentioned Unicron, right?
mm-hmm.
I mean this in the best possible way, so I hope nobody takes offense to it. But this Justice League Endless Winter kind of storyline.
By the way, you're 3 for 3.
Thank you. It's about time I got this right, Well, yeah, of course, as the story's wrapping up, I start getting the name right. Bodes well by the end of Future State. I should not be making mistakes on that by the end of it. But it has it's got the visual, pulse pounding action of a Michael Bay film, but a better story, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I can see the comparison there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is not one of these let's alter the DC universe forever type of things. And Ron Mars has even said that he just wanted to tell this kind of fun, self-contained story, but there are a few seeds that may come into play later on, and I think we see that with Black Adam.
You can see that in 3 places, I think, and we'll touch on it at the end. But here are the 3 places, and then you could ruminate on it while we review the last part, and then we'll discuss at the end. But I think 3 characters that it sort of sets up or leaves little seeds, as you say, are there might be 4 if my counting, I don't know, depending on how good my counting is. But Swamp Thing, it sets up something for Swamp Thing. It sets up Hippolyta, and it sets up Black Adam. And we'll talk about where they're going next near the end of the show. But in terms of this Black Adam issue, what would you rate it, story and art-wise?
Oh, that I would have to say 5 on both counts. It really achieved that kind of balance of character development as well as, like you say, the kind of big visuals that you want. So it was able to achieve that balance. So for me, it was a 5 and a 5 this time.
Same for me. It's 5 on both counts. I just like there's no issue of this storyline, and spoilers for the last one, that I outright did not like. I mean, there are some that I liked more than others, but on the whole, I really enjoyed this whole story. So with that said, let's get into the final installment, the series finale.
Yes, that is Justice League Endless Winter Special #2, Last Stand Against the Frost King.
Yeah, and where we've had some issues with less action, this is pretty much, all action. This particular issue.
Yeah, I mean, it opens up, of course, with the Justice League in a battle opposing the Frost King, and you see, Wonder Woman, Black Adam, Batman, Green Lantern, and by the way, I want to say this again for Green Lantern fans. This is a great showcase for this story. I mean, the entire story, an amazing showcase for John Stewart. He makes a lot of amazing constructs. You really see his kind of personal fabric, his internal fabric as a superhero. What makes him tick? And we also see the Flash come in, and the Flash has a really humorous moment when he helps save Black Adam, and he kind of puts words in Black Adam's mouth, and he's like, "Oh, thank you, Flash. Nice to see you." And of course, Black Adam is just scowling at him, which I thought was really funny. That was a nice exchange there. So,
which is funny because you'd think after what they exchanged earlier on in the storyline that if he was going to be somewhat friendly to anybody, it'd be Flash, right?
Yeah. No, he was still pretty stoic.
He's like, "Yeah, I helped you, but get over it. Like, don't make a big thing." He's like, "Get over it. I still like none of you." Yeah, it's But yeah, the Flash always brings the levity. But I really like you said, Jon Stewart has really shone in this storyline.
One of the things I have to point out too is that you see him have a really kind of contentious exchange with Batman, because you see that Batman had been monitoring Sebastian Stagg, and Jon Stewart was like, "Were you going to tell any of the rest of us?" And Batman's like, "Well, why would I?" And he's like, "You got trust issues. You got trust issues, buddy."
I love that carries on. Like, I love Batman to death, but all the way back to Tower of Babel, right? You'd think the Justice League would know that this guy's got shenanigans in his belt in regards to keeping things from them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why it's a shock to people that Batman is not 100% forthright within it. I think if he's truthful, if he's 100% truthful with any of them, since Tower of Babel, it's probably Superman. Let's be honest. I think that's the one that he's the most truthful with. It's kind of like a big brother, little brother scenario with those two, is what I would.
And of course, I mean, this series it kept up the long-standing tradition of Green Lanterns and Batman having issues, and that's true with all the Lanterns. So I really appreciated that moment.
Where it's like, because I look at Batman's involvement in the Justice League is he does it because Superman's there and Superman wants him to be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I want to bring this one spread right here.
What a beautiful page!
I really love that page right there. So
it just, I mean, and you're gonna love DC's coordinate, and I'm assuming this was coordinated. But man, Wonder Woman gets a lot of play in these last few issues.
She does.
It's like, gee, Wonder Woman 1984 is coming out. Let's boost her into the front of the, to the front of the pack. But yeah, it does have that. This fight seems really. It has that epic quality to it, that grand scale, almost Lord of the Rings type battle, right? Final battle.
And we do see the Viking Swamp Thing emerge too to oppose the Frost King. That's a very interesting visual. And by the way, I mean, we give you a good summary of these stories and we show you a few of the images, but we don't want to give you everything. We want to make sure that we're encouraging you to go out and buy these, whether it's digital or in print.
For sure. Go. Read them. I mean, our review is not to say here's the story. Now you don't have to read
that's the opposite. We want to give you a little bit more information and have you go out and buy it. So.
We're just look. At the end of the day, these are our thoughts of the story. Whereas we may love a story. You may not. The only way you're going to know is that, let's say, like if you're a Justice League fan, you owe yourself to pick up these 9 issues. And then, whether you like the story or not is up to your personal taste. Mm-hmm. But I think as a Justice League fan, and the scope of the story, you at least owe yourself the chance to make that decision for yourself. And the only way you're going to do that is by reading the story.
And if we decided to shoot 3 different episodes on something, it's obviously a recommendation. We think Endless Winter is worthwhile. So,
and for an example, like Donnie and I and Steven, we loved 3 Jokers, all 3 of us. 1 for each Joker, I guess. 1 like for each Joker. But it doesn't mean just because we loved it that you will. And if you have legitimate issues with it, more power to you. If your issue is, well, somebody said something bad about Jeff Johns that there's no actual proof of, so I'm going to hate him just because of that, that's where I take issue. But if you actually read the story and you're like, it didn't work for me, then by all means. But what we're trying to point out is read the stories and make your own. Like, we don't want to be like Rotten Tomatoes where you see a score, the score is not that good, I'm not going to read it. Or you see the score, that's a high score, it must have been a good book, but the they told me their thoughts, so now I don't have to read it. The point is, we're trying to push you to books that we think are worth you. I mean, whatever grabs your attention. Like, look, I think books are, for better or worse, kind of like movie trailers. You know, it's the job of the trailer to sell you on the movie. Mm-hmm. If you're hyped for that genre of movie and that trailer does its job, then you're going to buy that book, whether or watch that movie, whether Rotten Tomatoes has a fresh or rotten ascribed to it, right? Much like a comic book, when you see the preview pages to a comic or a cover image, that is essentially the trailer.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Unless the company puts out a trailer, right?
Right.
Like they did with Future State. They actually put out a trailer. But if they don't put out a trailer, it's the job of the cover image and the preview pages to sell you on it. So I don't know what's going on. It's not for me, so I don't know what's going on there. But anyway,
you think somebody's objecting to our review of Endless Winter?
could be, or say it's a honk because they agree. But the point is, like, our review should not be the supplement. You know, should not replace you reading the book. Our review should encourage you.
Yeah, it should be the supplement, not the replacement.
That's what I meant. Sorry, but you understood what I meant. Listen, it's a miracle I've gotten Endless Winter right all the times I did. I'm going to screw up something on this show. It just is what it is. So, do you want to talk about how this ends, or do you want to leave it for them to figure out?
Well, let's talk just a little bit more. The Frost King proves to be just a little bit too much, even with the help of the Viking Swamp Thing. And you see Aquaman reemerge. And, of course, there was an Aquaman issue earlier in this run. He shows up with the fire trolls, which that was just such a fun image. And I really like that you see Jon Stewart use a construct to scoop a bunch of them up and then drop them on the Frost King. I think that was my favorite moment of these 3 issues was Jon Stewart, again, using the ring. He's an intelligent fighter, knows how to get the best out of it. That was just an amazing image.
Now, I want to ask you, first of all, I agree with your assessment of the imagery. It was fantastic. But do you think Jon Stewart, I almost said John Peters. See, I told you I was going to screw up. Don't ask me why I had him in my head. God help us all. He's one of the enemies of Superman fans. But he's like Lex Luthor for Superman with better hair, or with hair, period. But do you think there was some coordination in the sense that Jon Stewart got a lot of play here, and got a lot of big moments throughout the story? Do you think that was purposely sort of put in place, given that he's going to be the star of a Green Lantern book come April?
Oh, I would have
January
to think,
and then April again. Yeah.
Right. I would have to think so, that they would want to plant a few seeds to remind us of, Jon Stewart's notoriety both among the Green Lantern Corps and the Justice League. This was a great showcase. And I will say this too. I like the way DC is doing some of these smaller events and also longer, thicker books. So we're seeing some of the early stages of the transition of DC, where it's less about these enormous crossovers that might take 50 or 60 or 70 issues or whatever, and it's smaller, more contained stories. And I'm liking it so far. I mean, it was fun to have an event that lasted 1 month.
Yeah, and now we're going to have one that lasts 2. But again, you don't have to get, well, in this case you did. Like, you had to get all 9 parts. Otherwise, you're going to be, lost. But with something like Future State coming up, you don't have to get every single book. You just get the characters that you like, which is what I'm doing.
Sure. And I think that's how most people are doing it. Most people don't have the money to buy every issue of every
I'm not
crossing.
gonna. I think there's like 29 books. I ain't buying no 29 books. I can't. Like I told you, I mean, yeah, not even a combo physical digital am I getting all 29. Um, but
That was not
like,
Swift.
yeah, no, I'm gonna, like I said, I've got a physical limit of 8 books. Um, so that's going to be taken into account. And then digital, I go a little bit more. But again, I mean, I love the fact that I can, again, with this, because it was only 9, sure, I'll read an issue of Teen Titans that I wasn't normally reading. And I'm not really a fan of the younger version of that team. Like, I like the classic Teen Titans. I don't like, Butterball or whatever his name is, or, I can't remember the character's name. The big ball character.
You mean Bouncing Boy?
Yeah, whatever his name is. Him, like, I'm not a fan of him. Lobo's daughter, it's like, I really don't care. But I read it because it was 1 issue out of 9, and it's not going to break my wallet to read 1 Teen Titans issue.
Oh, you got my funny bone with that one.
Well, no, I don't know what he's called. It shows you how little I care about the character. I have no idea what his name is. I read 3 issues, and I'm like, who is this idiot? I didn't like it. I'm like, I ain't spending money on it. Like, simple. You want to make me buy a Teen Titans comic? Give me Donna Troy, Dick Grayson, Logan.
Maybe the occasional appearance by Kyle Rayner.
You put Kyle Rayner in it, I'll read. Like, listen, they could put Kyle Rayner in a Doom Patrol issue, and I don't like Doom Patrol. I've been on record as saying that crap's a little too weird for me personally. I mean, if you like it, that's cool, but that's just a little too weird for me. But you put Kyle Rayner in that book, even if he's eating somebody's hair, which I don't condone because it's not very sanitary, but even if he's doing that, I'll read it because Kyle Rayner's in there. But so like I like that these events are, if they're asking you to read all the parts, they're not making it 45 parts, and it's 9. Basically, it's like reading a 12-issue maxi series. That's what they're asking you to do, which is not a big commitment. Let's say.
And I will say this too: if you are a Wonder Woman fan or a Black Adam fan, there's some things set up at the end of this issue that seem like they are going to be important going forward.
Okay, so let's just say, because I don't. Now that you said it, I don't want to spoil the ending with the Frost Giant. Let's leave.
Yeah. I think we've said enough as far as the narrative goes. We don't want to spoil everything.
There's more to the story in how he's defeated. It's a very touching moment. It actually, if you go back and listen to some of our previous issues or episodes on these issues, I kind of inferred, something similar to what was going to happen to the Frost King and his family. I wasn't bang on, but I was in the ballpark, or I was in the. I was onside. I wasn't offside completely.
Right, there you go. By the way, Endless Winter, this $3.99 from DC. Endless Winter number 2. This is where part 9 is.
Right. Yeah. And so, so before we talk about the future of those characters that you said they teed up, what do you want to rate number 9 in the final part?
For this one, I'm going to go 5 and 5 again. I really thought that they tied everything together well. The visuals were amazing. I really liked John Stewart's constructs. I really liked the clash between the Frost King and the Viking Swamp Thing. There was a lot to like here.
And I love the flying, where Superman, drags Black Adam away in
nice.
Midair.
Yeah.
That really got me. So, but in terms of the seeds, what this is planting, Donnie, I find it very interesting that we know, because we've covered the March solicitations, that Hippolyta and Black Adam are now going to be members of the Justice League. and you could kind of sense that their story was going to continue based on, an ending tease that happened in Endless Winter #2 here. Just again.
You think they'll get Butterball on the team with the two?
Yeah, I hope not.
I'm never going to be able to look at him again and not think about it.
The only time I want to see Butterball is if it's a turkey and on Thanksgiving. That's about it. And it's going in my stomach. That's the other addition. But with some mashed potatoes on the side. But anyway, now that I'm talking about food, Martha Stewart's going to sue us. But anyway.
Why did you say that name?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's right. I just forgot. Yeah. But I'm fascinated to see that relationship carry over. And also having the Flash and Black Adam dynamic, the banter. I feel bad for the Flash because I could see Black Adam just backhanding him across the face if he gets too. I mean, Batman usually gives him the dirty looks, but I don't think Black Adam would stop there. I think Black Adam would shove him across, throw him across the watchtower or whatever. Yeah. But watching that dynamic play out between Black Adam and Hippolyta in a Justice League setting is going to be very interesting. The other thing is, you mentioned Wonder Woman. Like Donnie, I've been going back and forth on what's going to be on my list, and I'm talking about my comic pull list, not the Multiverse Wives list, the physical comic pull list.
We know Gal Gadot was there. Gal Gadot, however you say her name.
Yeah. Gal Gadot will forever be on the list. I mean, she's the Hall of Fame status at this point. Like, there's no taking her off it.
Okay.
Beat that WWE Hall of Fame. Mine is better. Anyway, either way. Anyway, but it's a very easy list to get on. No, but mine, you have to be consistent to get into the Hall of Fame. You have to be consistently in the top 5 for a couple of years.
Okay, that's what you said.
Yeah. If you can consistently stay in the top 5 of the Multiverse Wives list for about 3 to 5 years, then you're guaranteed admittance into the Hall of Fame.
Do rings come with it? Do you send them all rings?
Wedding rings for each Earth, yeah. But
good job. Excellent.
But aside from that, I'm really having a back and forth in terms of my comic physical pull list, and I was like, okay. I wanted to put Nightwing on, and he was there. And then I read this Endless Winter thing with Wonder Woman and the amount of play that she got, and reading the preview page, the solicitation for Wonder Woman, and I'm like, I think Wonder Woman's moving up from the digital list to the physical list.
Okay.
So sorry, Nightwing, but hey, I mean, I'm not one of those fans that likes your butt enough to put you on the physical list. You may have to stick to the digital list. Well, no, I'm not saying that to be. There are fans who are fascinated with.
Oh yeah, Nightwing's a good character. I mean, that's actually. Go ahead.
Nightwing's rear end probably has his own Twitter account. Richard should say.
I've only just recently become aware of the fandom that has developed around Nightwing's backside.
Yeah, well,
I've seen a lot. Yeah, there are people on Twitter who like to spam pictures.
Welcome to the cesspool. But no, so Nightwing will be on my digital pull list. But reading that description and being as pumped as I am for Wonder Woman right now, I can't not put her there. So Wonder Woman, you've made the list, both lists. You're a representative of both lists. She's actually the only one. Well, yeah, because I'm not getting the Harley Quinn solo physically. That's digital. So yeah, Wonder Woman is so far the only representative. Well, technically Black Canary because she's in Justice League now, so she's kind of on both lists. Okay. So yeah, I mean, yeah, but it really like I have clearly the message of this story is I have a terrible time finalizing lists, both Multiverse Wives and comic lists. It's a real doozy. But remaining as the lone Marvel physical book is still Daredevil. I gotta give props to Daredevil because it's still.
I really have to read this run. I've been hearing so much about it. So
can I? Did I tell you what happens with Daredevil? Have I spoiled that for you?
Yeah, don't spoil it all for me. But yeah, you've told me some of what happens, and I've seen a little bit about what happens.
So you know who is Daredevil?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there you go. I mean, both again, she's right there with Wonder Woman. So both Electras in live action have made the Multiverse Wives list, Donnie, and now Elektra is making my comic list via her position as, the current spoilers Daredevil.
Right. I do want to mention one thing. This is a tie-in to Death Metal. If you're wondering where your favorite characters are, if you like a lot of characters who aren't, kind of the main central characters of DC, you can pick up some of these tie-ins.
Yeah,
there's a lot
good.
of characters. And they give you information. If you're wondering what a character's been up to, they're probably in here somewhere. One of these. There was also one called the last stories of DC.
I read that one most recently, The Last Days, and the art is just, the art is beautiful.
Okay, because I have that, and I have just like everybody else, I have a ton of stacks of comics that I haven't gotten to yet, but I have that one in here somewhere. So.
Well, you know what? I gotta say that's the good thing about lockdown is I can catch up on comic books. Right. So, it's a silver lining to everything. But yeah, no. So what I could say to wrap up Endless Winter is, I think it was a phenomenal read from start to finish. It had emotional moments. It had humorous moments. It had bombastic action. And it was just a fun Justice League story. A much needed dose of fun.
And I would say the same. I think it is. It's a story that I would definitely recommend people who didn't get these issues to go out and buy whatever collected edition they put out. I'll also say that I think this would be a good story for an animated movie because the visuals are just outstanding. I think it would look good in animation. And you also get, you get the quintessential Jon Stewart. You get a good snapshot into Black Adam. It would benefit DC to do an animated version of this. That's my opinion. So
I would agree with that. I had said in regards to your point, I agree that it would make a fantastic animated film. And I tweeted that to Ron Mars as well. Hopefully, DC will take advantage of it and put one out. So I'm in full agreement. But in closing, if you want to check it out, either track down the issues individually or get it via Comixology. Or if you're one of those guys that waits for the trade, I'm sure the trade will be right around the corner fairly soon. But however you read it, via supporting the comic book industry, do so because it's great. And then next up in terms of our comics coverage is Future State, which will be starting very shortly, and the plan is Stephen and I will cover the Superman and Batman titles. Donnie and I will cover the Flash and Green Lantern books, and I think you're reading some of the Wonder Woman, right? The Yara Flor.
Yeah, I believe I'm going to get some of that too. There was another couple. I can't remember exactly which ones, but there were several that I'm really interested in because, there are some characters that kind of replacement characters that I want to see where they go with it. So
okay, yeah, but so we'll cover those, and then you, me, and Steven will hopefully unite for the Justice League issues. We're going to be covering quite a bit of Future State here.
By the way, did we give our rating on the last issue there, the Justice League special?
Yeah, we said 5 on both counts.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, but that's what we have to look forward to. And until then, if you want to catch up with us on social media, Donnie, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast, now with chocolate muffins provided by Alfred, a.k.a. Steven, who finally did get those to Adam and myself, doing his job as the butler of Batman.
That's correct. He's back in good form.
Want to talk about Green Lantern? That's where you find me.
Yeah. He's back on good form. And if you want to request your own muffins, too bad. He's my butler. Yeah, so that's you. But if you do want to interact with me on social media, it's at Adam_Leafspan on Twitter. And we also have the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network Facebook page. It's the ask for permission to join the group. And either myself, me, I'll add you. And we'll continue the conversation there. The podcast network has a Twitter page as well. It's at MMNPDC, so you can follow there as well. Please like and subscribe to this vidcast, and this way you'll be notified of our next episode, which we put at least 2 YouTube videos out a week. So,
and the more you support us, the more content we can put out. So
yeah. So
tell your friends.
Yeah, exactly. But until next time, we want to remind you that Justice League Endless Winter is forever, from the first issue to the last. So long,
everybody.